Hey, alright, welcome back to Brighter Rays. This week we've been looking at Proverbs chapter 6, 1 through 5. And so we kind of worked our way from the beginning part here. It says, "My son, if you have put up security for your neighbor, have given your pledge for a stranger, if you are snared in the words of your mouth, caught in the words of your mouth." And then we kind of ended there. So that's the problem, right? You're putting up security, you've made a pledge for a stranger. Maybe you made security for a neighbor. Maybe you know this neighbor. Maybe you're good friends with this neighbor, but you went ahead and put up yourself as security for your neighbor. And then you get snared in your own words. Now the deal goes bad. Now you got problems. Okay. We saw that the Proverbs, other places, warns us to not be one who wants to go into these things, to hate them. It says. In the other place, it says, "Don't be one of those people that does this." And so the warning is there that this is a dangerous situation to be in. So the warning up front is, okay, avoid this if at all possible. But if you're going to do this, obviously there's wisdom would tell us that we need to be careful on who we're doing this with, who is in agreement, who are all the parties involved. Are they trustworthy? Are they people of God? Are they men of iniquity? Which ones are they? So we need to know that. Is there possible loopholes and all this other kind of underhanded kind of dealings? So we need to be aware of that. Now, say you're trapped, you're caught in the words of your own mouth. Then Solomon says, "Then do this," in verse 3. "Then do this, my son, and save yourself, for you have come into the hand of your neighbor. Go, hasten, and plead urgently with your neighbor. Give your eyes no sleep, and your eyelids no slumber. Save yourself like a gazelle from the hand of the hunter, like a bird from the hand of the fowler." All right, so what does that mean? Well, as one who has pledged, you must realize that now you're under the hand of your neighbor. You have placed yourself, you have tied yourself, you are now yoked to that person. You are tied to the person whom you vouch for, and the one whom you vouch to. So now it's you're tied to this person who asked you to make security or pledge, your neighbor, and then you're also now tied to the person whom that person has an agreement with too. So now it's like you're tied to these two other people or entities, and you've really given your authority over yourself to another. You've submitted yourself now to another person's authority. Now, whether that person is someone you should be under, that's another question. If you're going to voluntarily submit yourself to an authority of another, which is not required by the scriptures, then who are you doing that with? Why are you doing that? And who is this person? So, what does the wise person do in this situation then? Well, the wise person pleads urgently or humbles themselves before their neighbor. The original word has the idea of being trampled underfoot. So they trample themselves underfoot, basically, is what the original wording here says. I'm gonna put myself underneath this person. I'm gonna go hasten and plead urgently. The idea is like I'm gonna throw myself under the bus here. I'm gonna say, hey, I need to get. I should have made this. This is a bad deal. What can I do to get out of this? What can we do right now to get rid of this? To deal with this? What do we have to do to take care of this? And that's you plead it humbly. This is a mistake. I shouldn't have done this. I was trusting in this person, and that was wrong of me. And now I'm in this mess. How can I get out of this? Plead urgently with him. Plead with him. Go, hasten and plead urgently with your neighbor. That's what he says. If we do put up security or pledge for another, wisdom dictates that we get out of it as quickly as possible too. If you're trapped in it, yeah, you need to plead urgently to get out of that. But even if you did this, make sure these things resolve quickly. If you made the mistake of co-signing for someone, then get out of it as fast as you can. If you signed a lease with somebody else, then get out of it as fast as you can. Go, hasten. That's what you need to do. So if you're not even tied to someone who's going to destroy your life, get out of there. Get away from there. Go, he says. Hasten. There's these words of urgency here. Plead urgently, he says. Some translations say importune. which means to request with urgency, to press with solicitation, to urge with frequent or unceasing application. That's the idea here. Dude, I'm in trouble. I need to get out of this as quickly as possible. And so I'm not going to stop. And that's really what he says here in verse 4. Give your eyes no sleep and your eyelids no slumber. That's the idea. You're going, you're hastening, you're pleading urgently. You're not going to go to sleep. Wisdom tells us to not stop working to get ourselves out of these pledges. Just because there are certain terms and limits doesn't mean we should trust those terms and limits, right? Don't stop until you're free. And that's what, people take out, well, I'm going to, we pledge ourselves, we pledge our wealth, we pledge our future to get things like school loans, college loans. You're pledging, there's terms and limits, and we're making that pledge. Yeah, I'll pay it back. I just need the money now. I'll pay it back. Well, what's the pledge? That you'll pay it back with interest, right? And then there's some terms on there, and there's limits, and then there's like a payment schedule that comes, and you have to pay it off by this. You have to do this, and but you're trusting this. Now, who are you trusting? Now, if you got a government loan, now you're trusting the government, and that's probably not. I mean, the government we have now, not a good idea, right? Not a good idea. Because you're trusting them that they won't change the terms and limits on you. And that's what you do, really, when you do these things. When you're making that pledge, even if they're mortgage, it's like, well, I got this 30-year mortgage. Should I wait for 30 years to pay it off, or should I get out of it as fast as I can? Because now I am. Now that's evil or wrong, but the idea is that if you're in this, go hasten. Do it. You should be one who's like, man, I really don't want to do that, but I should get out of this as fast as I can. That's what wisdom tells us. Don't give any sleep. Don't slumber. Don't let it go. Get out of it as quickly as you possibly can. And then he gives us two nature examples, right? He gives you some. He says, "Save yourself like a gazelle." These are the illustrations. Save yourself like a gazelle from the hand of the hunter, like a bird from the hand of the fowler. It's kind of funny because if you ever listen to Dave Ramsey, he talks about getting out of a debt with like gazelle-like intensity, and this is what I'm guessing where he gets this from. I don't think I've really heard where you got that from, but I mean, this is what it's talking about here. If you are in debt, if you put up security, if you put up a pledge, then you need to get out of there like a gazelle, because that's what Solomon says. Now, gazelles that are hunted can reach 60 miles an hour. And if they're being trapped in something, they zigzag back and forth to confuse. So they can reach, if you ever watch those nature shows, you can see those gazelles, man, they can almost go as fast as like a leopard, but if they're getting trapped, if they're slowing down, then they begin to zigzag all over the place. So now it's even harder to get to, because they're not just running in a straight line where the lion or whatever is trying to kill them can just anticipate where they're going. It's zigzagging everywhere. So if they leap, then they're missing and stuff like that. So that's what a gazelle does, but it keeps going, right? It's there's an intensity behind a gazelle that's being hunted. It takes off as fast as it can. It's doing whatever it can possible to get out of the situation. That's exactly what he's talking about here. Don't stop until you're free from this. If you put up a security for your neighbor, if you put pledge for a stranger, then you're just getting out of it as fast as you can. You're going as fast as you can and doing whatever you need to do to get out of the situation. So it's a perfect example. People would have known what gazelles were back then and what they did, and you can see that. Okay, wow, that thing is crazy. In the past, I read something where when they were trying to catch gazelles to like eat them like humans, they wouldn't run after them, and they wouldn't try to shoot them on the fly like that because they're zigzagging. So if you're hunting them, you can't just run after them. And so what they would do is they would build these pits, or like they dig in the ground and make like a pit. But basically, you're making a dead end, somehow, and then you would run and chase them into these dead ends, and then you can kill them that way, because now they're trapped. Now they're fully trapped. There's no way for them to get out except for coming towards you, and then you can kill them that way. So, but that's the idea, They're intensity. They're trying to get out no matter what. They'll climb up over whatever you put in there, so you have to make it deep or you have to make it high, so they can't get out. But we get the picture, right? The idea is to do whatever you can, get out. And then he talks about the bird with the follower. So the birds that are trapped constantly peck at the net or the hand that's holding them. They don't cease until they're free. A wild bird, if you trap it, it's going to keep trying to get out. When you first put, a lot of times, even birds that are in, a lot of birds that you have, that you put in cages, they'll try to get out. And they're always looking for that. It's kind of like, or like, you put fish in an aquarium. Like, I had an Oscar fish one time. The thing was always trying to look for a way out. It's like, dude, there's no way out. But it's always like, it's always hitting along the edge, hitting the glass, rubbing up against the glass, is constantly going around looking for another way to get out of where they're at. And especially when it got bigger. But then it'd be like hitting at the top of the cover on the, so that's the idea. It's like it doesn't stop going. It just keeps going until they get out. It's not like, oh, I can take a break now because the hunter's trying to shoot me. I'll just take a break for a minute. No, then you're dead. With a bird, same thing. It's like the bird that's in a snare will keep trying to get out of it. It wants to be free, so it'll constantly peck at the net over and over and over and over again. Or if you grab a bird, a wild bird, it's gonna try to fight you, right? It's not gonna stop until it gets free or you kill the thing. That's the idea. So that's the intensity. So if you're in it, he says, get out of it. You got yourself there. Now it's time to free yourself. And that's wisdom. That's what God's wisdom says. So it doesn't absolutely forbid this, but there's a lot here that would make you say, it's pretty close to that. Pretty close to that. So if I'm going to put up my pledge for somebody or pledge myself, then I need to make sure I know what I'm doing. I need to know who I'm pledging to. I need to know who I'm pledging for. If I'm pledging for somebody else, then I need to make sure I know what I'm doing. Because there's a lot of danger in this. And that's the temptation, right? Go back to it. It's easy to slap hands with somebody. But it's not easy to get out of that pledge. It's a vow you made. Now you are bound to it. And so that's the thing you have to be careful of. So remember that going forward. And next time when we get back together tomorrow, we'll look at the conclusion of our study here, make some applications to ourselves, because we need to do that. I've kind of done that along the way, giving you some examples. But now it's time to make it personal, so that's what we need to do with all the scripture, but with these proverbs as well. So come back next time for that.